Are you emotionally shackled to your job? Do you consider yourself to be a people pleaser, somebody who seeks approval, or perhaps even a workaholic? We're going to discuss how to break the chains of your emotional bondage to your job and prevent burnout and stand out like a real hero. So, the first thing we have to understand is that we're all driven by a meritocracy. And in this meritocracy that we live in, we find that we are promoted for doing hard work. The more we work, the more outcomes, successful outcomes that we have, we actually find that we receive lots of rewards. And so it becomes a very interesting cycle that we become ingrained with working more and achieving more. And over time, we become victim to the trap and shackled to this relationship that we have with our job in an unhealthy fashion. Well, meritocracy by itself is not a bad thing. On the surface, it actually is a very good thing. The challenge is actually in the relationship that we have with our job and the outcomes beyond the monetary benefit of it. We attach a lot more meaning to what we do than is likely healthy or actually realistic. We think we make more of an impact than we actually do. In fact, most times I tell people that when you remove your finger from the glass of water, that is about how much you will be missed in most cases, except to those who matter to you most. But what is it you can do to help readjust your relationship? There are six key things that you can do. The first thing that you can focus on is you can know what you're about. You have to quit seeking approval from everyone for everything that you do. This is unhealthy. The way we do this is that we begin to focus and create a habit of nurturing our body, mind, and spirit. This is really key to begin establishing healthy boundaries because we become aware of who we are and what our needs are so that we can better show up for those that we love. Work is not the sole reason to derive meaning. In fact, we find that when we attach too much meaning to our work, we become overly dependent upon work as part of our identity. And this crumbles when the work changes. How many people do you know, or have you experienced this personally, that when you lost your job, were laid off, or went through a downturn in the economy, you had a bit of a crisis of identity? That's a challenge. So let's talk about the second thing that you can do to help break the emotional bondage of your job. That is to set and maintain clear boundaries. Believe it or not, when we are a people pleaser and say yes, we're rewarded as part of a meritocracy. This is something that made me personally very popular with management as well as with my customers, if you can imagine. So I'm sure those of you that have the same issue find yourself in high demand because you always have an answer for yes. But the challenge that I found in saying yes all the time was that I was often exhausted and really was emotionally unavailable for those that I loved and that loved me. This created lots of challenges in my personal life and also created a lot of disenfranchisement and, believe it or not, actually prevented me from showing up fully for my employer and my customers. So, how do we change that? We change that by setting boundaries. And believe it or not, it has a bit of an inverse reaction that when we set clear boundaries and practice figuring out how to be realistic with what we can offer and what we can deliver by saying no to the things that we can't and yes to the things that we can do, that we actually increase our respect and we pay dividends into our trust bank with those that we work with. And we can also be better present for those that we work with to ensure that we give them, as they deserve, the best of what we can offer in that particular engagement that we're in. So I would encourage you to think about that as you're beginning to look at breaking the chains of emotional bondage that you're in and ensure that you set and maintain clear boundaries. Oh, one word of warning. This is not a one and done situation, I'm afraid, my friend. It is something that you will have to practice regularly to ensure that you maintain the ability to set and maintain clear boundaries. And as you do, you'll begin to expand and learn more about yourself and what you can and should not do. So keep that in mind. Just like when you're working out a muscle, you have to continue to work out that muscle or it will atrophy. The third opportunity for you to break those emotional chains. It's saying what you're going to do and do what you'll say. That sounds simple enough, but in many cases, those of us that are people pleasers or workaholics, we like to always try to say what we can. We have the best of intentions to deliver on something. We hope we can. We wish we could. But in reality, we often find that we have overestimated our capacity and far underestimated the most finite resource that we have, which is time. So, what I can encourage you in is as you're practicing setting and maintaining clear boundaries, part of that exercise, by extension, is to signal and say what you're going to do and then do that thing. Don't make promises. In fact, I would encourage you to be ruthless in actually paring down those commitments that you make so that when you deliver, it is received with the utmost respect and the value that it deserves. By doing this, we actually begin to cultivate a sense of reliability, and those that we work with can begin to feel that we're trustworthy. This actually helps to build our trust bank so that we can create the relationship that we need for our network to grow and for our careers to prosper. Meanwhile, what this also does is this does bleed over into our personal life, and we can practice these things in our daily lives as well too. When your spouse or partner actually asks you to do things on the weekend, you can simply have a candid conversation with them about what you will and won't do. That is something that, as you begin to build a healthy communication relationship with your partner or spouse, that will help foster a growing relationship as well too. So this advice extends well beyond the workplace, and I hope you use it to help benefit you and those that you love and work with. We place more meaning on that work than really is practical, foregoing the relationships that we have with others. The fourth thing that you can do to help break these chains is do what I call communicate for connection. This means that you have to prioritize understanding and empathy in every interaction that you're doing. You don't want to just simply communicate for information. You actually want to be enhancing respect and mutual trust. This means that you have to listen. This means that you have to build intuition. This means that you also have to have respect and a desire to help others grow. This is not always something that the selfish, self focused ladder climber wants to do. So, this certainly isn't advice for you. But what I would encourage is that if you want to be someone who is respected not only for getting things done, but how you get it done, communicating for connection is one of the most vital things, because those that you work with will remember you for how you got things done. So, I'd like you to embrace this practice and communicate not just merely for conveying information, but to really build bridges between minds and hearts. We live in a meritocracy that rewards us for successful outcomes, and in so doing, trains us on how to establish poor boundaries and relationship with our work. So, this is not necessarily the problem. The problem is in how we alter and shape our own reality in our own perception of value. So, with that, the fifth opportunity for us to break the emotional bondage of our job is to educate others on how to win with us. This means that we have to clearly articulate our expectations and the paths to success within our collaborations with our coworkers and customers. So, with that being said, it's also important to realize this is a reciprocal relationship. So, therefore, you also should be interested in how others choose to see success or how you can win with others. So remember this in your relationship building, that when you are working with others, it is also important, in the last video that we talked about, to communicate for connection as well too. So in so doing, by understanding how to help others win and achieve their outcomes, you can endear yourself to them, reinforce trust, and also help to achieve your outcomes or persuade them towards your goals and objectives. This is one of the ways that we actually break the chains of emotional bondage to our job. So, to say it very simply, you have to maintain balance in your life. Part of breaking these chains is in the practice that you put into place. And we've covered five of those opportunities. The sixth opportunity for you that I can offer from personal experience is to simply get a hobby. That is anticlimactic, isn't it? Well, what I have found in my own life is that I once poured myself into my job. I thought that because I traveled the world and I got to meet very interesting people, from Fortune 50 CEOs to rock stars, to celebrities to very successful entrepreneurs, that my life was fulfilling. And while interesting, I will say, it was not where the value rested. The value actually was with those that I loved and the things that I focused on. And by maintaining a hobby, it really actually began to help create a better space for me so that I could show up for not only those that I love, but my employer and my customers as well. For me, my hobbies were writing as well as martial arts. And so I actually just recently launched my book, Burn That Project Down, which has been quite fulfilling for me. And I have studied martial arts for almost 2 decades, which has been a fantastic stress outlet for me. It has intellectually stimulated me, and it has provided, believe it or not, a counterpart to my spiritual journey. So, by all counts, I would say that these have been very successful in helping me break the chains of my emotional bondage to my job and to begin to show up for those that I care about, as well as my employer and my customers, in a more meaningful and present way. I can actually be a full fledged person. If you've ever read a book and the characters seem a little bit flat, well, that's kind of how I was. I was that flat individual who all they did all the time was work. And while effective at my job, I was not truly unleashed. And so, what I would offer is that in an anticlimactic fashion, get a hobby.